100 years ago, they fought in one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. A war so brutal that it left 16 million dead and more than 20 million wounded. Did you know that of those who were killed in the First World War, 74,187 were Indians?
They were the largest military volunteer force in history. More than 1 million Indian soldiers served in the First World War. In Western Europe, in France and in Belgium, more than 138,000 Indian soldiers participated in the war. They are remembered over here in war memorials and cemeteries in many parts of this country, Belgium.
100 years ago, Indian soldiers fighting for the British against the German Empire fought in Western Europe, German East Africa, Mesopotamia and the Northwest frontier. These were no ordinary battles. These are the Flanders fields of Belgium today, lush agricultural land, rolling countryside. 100 years ago, these were fields of death. Fighting to defend the town of Ypres, a defensive line against a German onslaught towards the Allied ports of Calais and Boulogne-sur-Mer, Indian soldiers were among the first victims of chemical warfare in military history. As waves of sinister chlorine gas came rolling in, Jawans here were asked to urinate in their turbans and press it to their faces. Many died a miserable death in trenches like this. German artillery shelling was in fact the greatest killer.
These places were really infested by vermin, lice, rats, mice, you name it. The bread they had to be extremely careful where to hang the bread and keep it in a bag, because otherwise it was completely eaten by rats. There are haunting stories of people waking up at night with rats crawling all over them. And the rats were in no man's land, and they were in the trenches.
Sick, cold, outgunned and used as cannon fodder, the infantry divisions of the Indian Expeditionary Force were withdrawn to Egypt in October 1915, a year after being deployed, with 2 Indian cavalry divisions remaining on the Western Front. Today and every day, Indian soldiers who fought in the First World War are remembered here, at the stunning Mena Gate at the center of Ypres. And every evening they are honored at a small ceremony for having stood shoulder to shoulder with their Allied comrades. Though there is a small Indian memorial here, constructed belatedly, the use of the emblem of India is a historical inaccuracy. While the notion of India was alive and well a century ago, the men who fought here fought for the British, and many of the regiments which participated also became part of the Pakistani army after partition. But back then, these men fought together, united by a bond that only soldiers in the heat of battle can know.
In my view, and in the judgment of history, yes, these regiments did very well. It's very, very hard to compare them to British regiments because they were trained for warfare on the northwest frontier. They were trained in a different way to continental armies, but they had to come to do a job on continental Europe, which they were not prepared for. In many ways, they were just as good. In other ways, they were not as well prepared.
The role of Indians in the First and Second World War remain forgotten chapters of our history. The strange irony is that India Gate, the site of independent India's Amar Jawan Jyoti, was originally built as a tribute to the Indian soldier often fighting thousands of kilometers away in the First World War, a war that came to redefine the nature of conflict. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.